Young Bleed, Corleone. How you doing, big homie?
I'm pretty good, family. How you been?
I've been good. Thank you. You been all right since I last saw you?
Yeah, hanging in there, man. Getting through the little bullshit case out here. But other than that, man, just, everything is everything.
Oh, damn. You fighting a case?
Yeah, man. Had somebody play the informant on me on some weed and some clean gun charges and shit. Sent the motherfucking people in my crib. So, but, yeah, that's a whole nother story. But, yeah, just getting through that, man. I'm looking all right, though.
Oh, damn, man. Well, prayers and blessings your way, and keep your head up, and, this too shall pass, as they say. You know what I mean?
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. Absolutely.
And I know how that is. You know what I'm saying? I know you don't know much about me, but I have 2 felonies on my record, and therefore distribution, trafficking, and it's through an informant that they built the case on me. You know what I mean?
That kind of shit. Absolutely, my brother.
And the thing people got to remember in this life is, don't get involved if you finna be snitching on people and whatnot. Then just stay on the sidelines. You know what I mean?
Stay on the sideline, absolutely. Stay totally out the way. So that part. So
okay.
But yeah, that kind of shit, my brother. You know what I'm talking about.
But I know you're blessed, and so you'll get through it. But yeah, man, I appreciate you, hopping on the phone with me today, despite everything. And like I said, I just want to chop it up with you for a little bit, and so I appreciate that.
Okay, same here, family. Shit, let's get it on. I'm with you.
So, for everybody that don't know, of course, you come from BR, Baton Rouge.
Yes, sir.
And so, do you still stay in Baton Rouge? I know I think you lived in Texas and Louisiana. So, do you still have multiple cribs, or are you back in Louisiana now?
I'm kind of sort of, man. I tell everybody I lived in 41 states at least a weekend, man. But, yeah, within the last few years, maybe going on 4 years, I've been back home out here in Baton Rouge.
Okay. What's crazy is that's where I got my golds done, was in Baker, I think, which is right there, pretty much Baton Rouge, right?
Yeah, right on the outskirts, Baker. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's where I had my golds done. I flew in and flew out. But yeah, so, I'm a little familiar with Louisiana, messing with Savage and Shreveport and all that.
That's right. Absolutely.
But
yes, sir.
I know Baton Rouge, it's from what I hear and from what I know, just through the grapevine, it could be pretty, it's got the trenches out there and shit can get hectic and whatnot. So growing up, I know, you kind of, you worked 9 to 5s and you kind of stayed away from most of the trouble as much as you could anyway. I know police harassed your ass and whatnot,
Yeah.
But how was it, just through the love of wanting to make the music that kept you out of that life for the most part, or what do you think it was?
Yeah, basically that music saved my life and gave me an alternative, real young as a kid, kind of family founded music family, but nobody incorporated anything. So it was in the household growing up, from my grandmother to my grandfather, and, of course, his sons and daughters, everybody did a little something if it was singing in the church or, playing instruments and stuff like that. So I picked up that type of thing, really in the embryo. My mother used to read me Dr. Seuss before I was here. My uncle used to play drums. So, they say rap is rhythm and poetry. So that was my first love. I've been playing a whole drum set since about 4 or 5 years old. Congas and bongos and that type of thing, you know what I mean? And everything else I pretty much grew into along the way. But yeah, started at home.
Yeah, so just have that musical background just in your blood and in your soul. And I think that's what's really, sets, hip hop music apart, is we take all those genres, and that is hip hop, the sampling and the mixing and the, you're picking up beats from here and the live instrumentation and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. I just wondered, what made you, what was the first rap record you heard?
For me, I could tell you a lot of records, but rest in peace to my uncle James Donald, who my granddad, and we always called Peter Wheatstraw, the devil's son-in-law, Jr. And he also played piano, harmonica, as well as my grandfather. But I want to say maybe even before the Sugar Hill Gang and different things like that, and Run DMC along the way, and a plethora of artists as far as that evolution of the East Coast and hip hop. It might have been Blowfly rapping, rapping dirty or rap dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom used to sing that all the time. You know what I mean? So that might have been my first rap song I really ever heard. Here giving credit to Blowflies, and eventually. The Sugar Hill Gang, Nucleus, you know what I mean, Jam on it, with rest in peace to Wicked Cricket. And then eventually to my first tape, I remember like in '83 in the 4th grade, was Ron DMC's first self-titled tape. Was my personal interest, and that started to help shape my pen, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's, I think there's those moments for an artist when, I remember for me it was, my sister gave me Ice-T OG, the tape,
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, you know what I'm saying? I was like, this is incredible, and so, and then, hip hop had already been on, by the time I came around, but at the same time, it just grabbed me, and I remember I started to think like, possibly this could be something to do, so when you started, like, was it really for the love of the music, were you because a lot of artists today, it's either about the respect, because they honestly, think they can go bar for bar with anybody, want to be maybe mentioned in the GOAT talk eventually at the end of their career, and then some people are just motivated by money, and of course if you can get both, I mean that's wonderful, but so when you first started off, did you have visions of, they talk about Pac and Biggie and top 5 dead or alive? Did you have visions of wanting to be mentioned in that category?
Definitely, man. Once I started young, I really wanted to be like one of the youngest rappers to do it. I had been rapping, kind of freestyling around about 8 years old, but by 9, I was on my penmanship. I had a poetry teacher. I learned to write poetry. My auntie, George Johnson, rest in peace. She'll write poetry pieces, and my uncle and different things like that. To turn in at elementary school and so on and so forth. So I had that love interest, man. Of course, wanted to eventually grow into a business one day when I understood the economics and the financial stance of hip hop. Looking at young rappers like LL Cool J, and here again, shouts out to LaWarn Love, man. That was on the 2 Live Crew label. Luke Skywalker back in the days. I want to say he was the youngest rapper that I heard had a deal at like 12 years old, so that was inspiration for me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of follow that trend, for us getting into the business, but naturally it didn't start with money for me out the house. So I had that love interest in the vibe and the connection of here again rhythm and poetry, basically.
Yeah. So when you decided to, okay, I'm gonna write my first song or kick a verse, where did you go? Who were you recording with? How were you guys doing it? Did you have to get studio time? Did a homie have? I know it's a lot easier now than it was,
Definitely, absolutely. Rest in peace to old timer by the name of Tommy Jefferson out here. Used to have a neighborhood studio in the neighborhood in the Glen Oaks area. So if I started writing and rapping, actually about 9, I would start recording at about 11 years old. Shouts out to one of my homies named Black. That was off the 16th, 17th Street projects, what we call Uptown now, but the top of the bottom, we got 2 sides of South Baton Rouge where I'm born and raised. I come from the bottom and to the top. But Black was a guy that lived in the top, and later on I go to the top and live with my grandmother and different things for the summertime. So I freestyle walking through those projects, going to the corner stores with my big cousin and different things like that. And Black asked me, hey man, you serious about this rap thing? I know a guy named Tommy Jefferson in Glen Oaks, called his phone number. And of course, I told moms, my mom took me to my first session at about 11. And, paid Tommy for like a 7-hour session, about $20. He used to charge $20 an hour, but he only charged me like $20 to make my first demo tape in 1985, man. So yeah, for starters like that, the 8-track reel to reel, we was recording on that back in the day.
Wow. Yeah, that's, and then that's incredible for an artist coming up to have, like I said, those moments to where somebody, gave you a shot, gave you an opportunity, you know, and that's always important later on and coming back around. And me now knowing you personally and what you do now for younger artists such as myself and everything, like it's always good to, you know, come full circle with it and everything, you know.
Absolutely. I said 8-track, but 4-track, real to real. We used to double the 4-track up, you know what I mean, to get 8-track. Yeah, we come from the 4-track, man. Tape. Yeah, absolutely, man. So, you know, each one teach one. What was handed down to me, I try to do the same things as you mentioned and pass the torch on down to the up and coming, and that been kind of my, you know, stepping stones along the way, you know what I mean?
And so is this music still available? Is it still around? Do you still have it on, you know, for your records, you know?
It may be a few homeboys that kept up. I try to keep up with everything since a kid, but I lost so much and different things like that. So every now and again, I'll catch an old homie that'll pull off something that I hadn't heard, that kept a tape or something like that. I had a copy or something like that from back in the gap. But me, myself, personally, I wish I had those records, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, those are probably some jewels, some diamonds in there, you know. And I just wondered if from time to time, with all the music you've done, because as I've been learning about you more and more, I know you're a workaholic. You have a ton of music, you know. So I wonder if stuff pops up from time to time online, and you're like, oh, wow, where did this come from?
and it's those type of records, you know, once recording beginning and definitely into the digital world. So recording that long ago, since 85, I had my first tape was put out, I want to say in 1991. Was called Much Love, and When Dirty Harry Met Sally. So from those days into the early CeeLo Records days, you know what I mean, and all the features on the in between, that happens occasionally. It pop up, or somebody pop up with.
And so when you were rapping and recording, was there a lot of artists when you're this time period when you're still real young? Is there a lot of guys in the Baton Rouge trying to get in? How was the hip hop scene out there at that time?
Scarce, if I could say, but yeah, it was guys that was on the radio. Shouts out to Wise and Greg Dukes and those guys. Shantae. I want to say Wise was part of a group called Reality, and that's the first time I heard a Baton Rouge group on the radio here. They had a song called Missing Kids in the time of the Wayne Williams Atlanta time in the 80s with the Atlanta child murders. Yeah. So they had a song based on that, and that was the first Baton Rouge rappers that I heard on the radio. But in my neighborhood, I give credit to my big cousin K.O Sizzlin in the Bottom Posse. The first time I saw, you know, somebody from my vicinity with real 12-inch, real whole albums and tapes that was pressed. So I followed that trend, you know, learning from those guys that was right in the neighborhood. And shouts out to B-Lo and the Much Fresh crew, you know what I mean, Kuiper and all those guys throughout the city. So it was birthing. So it was scarce that grew into what it is now, you know, just like any other evolution of hip-hop from New York around the board, you know.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy is the talent in Louisiana is just, it seems really abundant, you know, coming from, and it's kind of a strange, you know, you think Texas, you think Florida, you think, you know, but you don't really necessarily think Louisiana, and people do now because, of course, No Limit, Cash Money, but then Baton Rouge, you know, you and Boozy and Gates and all of them, you know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy, like, it's like, man, some in the water down there got a lot of talent, you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, it's music mecca, man. When you come back to us, you know, I always say we blues babies, but really the birthplace of jazz. When you're talking New Orleans and Louis Armstrong and those kind of guys, so Louis Armstrong Park, and I want to see a museum and different things like that that's in New Orleans, you know, before you get to Mississippi. So it's a music mecca from gospel on up, you know what I mean? Eventually, you know, we will come world famous for hip-hop, but everybody has some trait of music, and when hip-hop evolved, and, you know, whoever picked up that trend, that's what it is to this day.
Okay. And you and CeeLo are from the same neighborhood or just the same city?
The same neighborhood, South, the bottom of South Baton Rouge, man. Yes, sir.
Okay, and so he knew you was rapping, and he rapping and was doing his mogul thing too, and that's how y'all became to collaborate and whatnot?
Well, no, we grew up actually from middle school up. He's about a year older than me, so I want to say he was 12. So somewhere, if I'm in the 6th grade, he might have was in the 7th or Maybe we was in the same grade or something. I remember being in a couple of classes with him, but he had a dream to be a DJ. So around the school, I was the rapper and he was my DJ. But you know, I did talent shows and stuff like that. I don't think he ever did, you know, and I could be mistaken. But just on the school grounds, you know, he held me down as a big brother, streetwise and otherwise. And as I was freestyling and battling with guys like that, he'd, you know, be in the corner, but posing as my DJ. You know what I mean? So later on in the early 90s, you know, he started his record. You know, after I put that tape out, maybe a year or so after that, he started C-Loc Records. Then he started rapping. So I don't know what his rap bug or what clicked him other than, you know, Our Evolution and Lee Time, those guys, and rest in peace to Lee Time's brother Ty Rock was my battle sparring partner. So all of us came up in our own way, and later on we would join for us the birth of C-Loc Records. So yeah, we come from 11, 12 years old, man.
Okay. And so was there, and that's why when everything hit with P and Priority Records and whatnot, that's why C-Loc was involved too, because you guys put that music together as a camp.
Yes, and I was like, I was the second artist there. Him and Lee Time was the first two. Well, I say third, because he was doing his rap thing, and Lee Time was on his records in the beginning. So they the founding fathers of C-Loc Records on the hip hop side of things. You know what I mean? On the production and, you know, vocal side. Then later on, I signed with him. I was the first one really to sign. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
C-Loc. So being in the process of working on my solo album, the evolution of Pete took place, and they connected some kind of way, being CEOs, you know, and here's the companies, and it just kind of fell in place that way for me before I could release my record on C-Loc Record on my debut album. I got the access to No Limit. That gave me access to Priority Records and out to California, and the rest was history, you know.
Okay, why was it, I was curious, why did No Limit have their headquarters in Baton Rouge?
I know Pete, you know, I want to say they started in California. I know they lived out there. I think he had a record store or something like that. But he came back home for whatever reason or another, and I got the opportunity to meet him along those lines. But yeah, eventually, I didn't know that for a while, because I always thought either New Orleans or California. But you know, right on Carpet Boulevard, I had to go record some records with him to wrap up my album, and recognize that a lot of those guys had already moved down here and was living in the city on the low. You know what I mean? And had that headquarters. You know what I mean? That was on again Carpet Boulevard. So yeah, that was No Limit on Records, man. Absolutely.
Okay, and so of course the hip hop classic, you know, My Balls and My Word, like it's just a fantastic album from beginning to end. And I know you dropped how many albums after that?
To this date, I want to say maybe 9 solos, you know, a couple of, you know, of course, compilations I was on throughout, and, you know, a plethora of features. But for as Young Bleed's solo records, I want to say we had nine or so records. Let me count them down. My Balls and My Word, my own. I did Vintage after that. After Vintage, what we did. I want to say Rise Through the Ranks, you know, shouts out to C-Bo and the West Coast Mafia. Once Upon a Time in America. What did I do after that? I want to say I did Living, What a Life, Signs and Wonders, and There Is a God. So unless I'm missing something, those 9 solo records I did since like 97, 98.
Okay, so like I know sometimes, you know, of course, you know, My Balls and My Word's a classic. Everybody loves that album. But from the artist perspective, sometimes our favorite is not what everybody else's favorite is. So what's your favorite project? What are you know, I know that's what's brought you the most success, but besides that doesn't always, you know, compute to your feelings. So what is your favorite project to as a personally to you?
Well, it's stepping for me, you know what I mean? Like Max Minnelli would say, you know, we always, you know, consider doing it better than the last time. So for the time frame, you know, I like everything I did, but in the growth process of it and in the effort of getting better and better, to this date, you know what I mean? It's like There Is a God. Every record before it, but reaching a certain spirituality and a lyrical peak, yeah, you know, over time, you know, and we listen. We our worst critics, so we'll go back and say, I should have did this, I would have did this, I wanted to add that. But I learned like pockets, put it down and move on to the next. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So each record for me is a great record, getting better and better along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is kind of like that. I feel you on that. Like, it's kind of like let it live, let it breathe, let it see what it does. Like you created it for a reason, and yes, you can't really look back on it now in any kind of way. But yeah, I feel you. I do that. We're kind of hard on ourselves and such. But so speaking of SIBO, how did y'all come to connect and link up?
Man, shouts out to my cousin Brent Dixon from Divided Souls. I go to Brent House and different studios he'll be a part of, have access to in the town. And one time we was in a session and he went and got a Murder Dog magazine. And he said, man, look, SIBO talking about working with you. It was a picture of him and Yuck Mouth, I think, back to back. And they was talking about they Block Movement albums or Thug Lords or something like that. And I saw him mention that I was one of the guys that he would love to work with. So I, effortlessly told Uncle Paulie, my manager at the time, reach out and find SIBO and them people. Of course, I was a diehard, big SIBO fan. So me being reintroduced to the West after the No Limit and Priority days. This was a time later around 2004, or something like that. And when he reached Bo was in the penitentiary. You see what I'm saying? He was locked up, but he made efforts to reach to his people, and this girl or something called me on three-way, and it's a story that we share, nowadays. He said it's the same way that he was connected to Pop. He made the same connection with me and was trying to do the same thing in order to rebirthing me. And that effort like Pac had gave to him, he wanted to give to me. So I remember being in my driveway and, my wifey at the time come out and say, SIBO on the phone. I'm like, girl, quit playing. Bo ain't on no phone, blase. And I go in, and his girl had called, on the three-way. Had got my number, of course, from Uncle Paul. It had to be, and he was on the three-way call from whatever his incarceration point was at the time. But we talked about business. It was an honor and pleasure to meet him. He accepted me for us being a part of West Coast Mafia. Shouts out to T-Po. So we flew out to California sometime within that year, and we made a deal to do a couple of albums with those guys. So that was official. We started working on Rise Through the Ranks immediately, or I was already working on that record, but I shifted in that direction and pretty much did a co-op deal with my label Detention Home at the time. So Detention Home and West Coast Mafia, the first record we released was Rise Through the Ranks, you know what I mean, Volume 1. And the day Bo was come home from his incarceration, my record had been shipped to California. You know how we could push the button now and send it through email. We used to have to mail the reel to reel, and you know what I mean, dads and shit to get to where it was going. So it just happened to reach California. He was sitting and mixing and mastering while he was coming home. So that was my gift to him the day he came home in California. So nice. We went on from there to do another record called Once Upon a Time in America. So between 2004 and I want to say Rise Through the Ranks come out in 2005, and maybe the end of 2006, sometime in 2007, we released Once Upon a Time in America, the same way Detention Home, West Coast Mafia, and we still bros to this day, man. So that part.
That's cool, yeah, because SIBO's incredible, you know what I mean? And I just always respected him as an artist, and I think he slept on, and then his hustle, and then being a real one, because I know, his background is, so that's dope that y'all linked up and worked together like that, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir, big bro for sure, for life, man. West Coast Mob, baby. Yes, sir.
So with Priority, you were on Priority for 2 albums.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
I was scheduled for 7 albums, but we ended up doing 2 records, and they had their great fall while I was in the process of recording the 3rd album, which would be Vintage.
Okay,
yeah.
And so for people that aren't in the industry and don't know exactly, so how does it end when that they just don't re-sign you, or what? How did it go from 2 to, it was supposed to be 7 down to 2?
Well, I didn't get no warning. I remember recording that record. Rest in peace to Mr. Harold Coward, man, was one of the bass players for Andy Gibbs and the Bee Gees, man. Was an old white guy. You know, I used to call him my old white granddaddy, man. You know what I mean? He had a 40-acre studio on Bluff Road out here in the town. So I had recorded the rest of, I want to say My Own was recorded there. Then we started recording Here Again Vintage. So we had our connect between that and Priority. They'll send, you know, the checks and the invoice. We all do what we had to do studio-wise and break the bread. And one day, we're in the middle of recording that third record, Here Again Vintage. Go to the Albertsons to take a lunch break, you know, get some chicken and come on back. And minus the computer time, you know, we had the invoice. So sitting in his office was a piece of paper that said Priority had just folded and merged with Capitol Records. So I didn't get no warning or none of that. You see what I'm saying? So they left me holding the bag in that sense of the word. So I went back independent. Shouts out to Mr. Johnny Phillips and all the guys over there, Selecto Hits in Memphis, Tennessee. And they made a new home for me for a distribution company, but it gave me an outlet to continue to put out the records that I mentioned, you know what I mean, at least a few through Selecto Hits at the time. But that's how that happened. I didn't get no precursor, none of that shit. They just left me holding the bag.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering how that happened, you know, because I know the second album did well as well, you know.
Yeah. Of
course, you've always done well, but so anyway, so after going to Memphis and then did you go on to another deal after that, or have you been independent since then?
Always independent since then. Like I say, for starters, coming back to the independent hustle through Selecto Hits, I want to say we eventually put out the Vintage album. I finished up there. Then we did a Clickalation album for my Clickin' family, the Corleone family. I introduced that to the world. And that's the only two records I did. Then West Coast Mafia would come along after that, and we put out those two records. Rise to the Ranks, Once Upon a Time in America. Then Blessed Again, somewhere in 2009. The vice president at Strange with Tech Nine, those guys, was my friend Dave Weiner from the Priority days. So once he was over there and he got wind that I was working with a guy by the name of Chauncey Clyde, one of my bros in Kansas City. We was working on an album called Three-Headed Monster. Me, Chauncey Clyde, and our brother Money Waters out of Dallas, Texas. So me and Money drove up to record that record, and Chauncey was shopping it, and of course the Strange and whoever else. So he run across Dave, and Dave heard I was on the record and realized he know me, and immediately told him to get me on the phone and asked me what I had going on. So me and Sebo was deciding what we was gonna do for us another project, and I'm on a lot of the West Coast rider records and stuff like that. Anything that Bo would do here include me, and vice versa. So while we was figuring that out, Dave come along and offered me a situation that's Strange. So one night I forgot, so maybe 10 records, I forgot Preserve. So I ended up doing a record at Strange Music called Preserved, along with a book. Shout out to Saw and Baker. That was a Priority affiliate at the time. Those guys stayed family and stayed connected with me, and he taught me how to put a book together. I want to say I was the third rapper that he did a book on. I want to say the first was Jay-Z, and the second one was Tech Nine. I was the third guy that he did a book based on that particular album that's called The Making of Preserve. You know what I mean? And that's still available, on Amazon.com. You know what I mean? So yeah, Preserved and Strange Music, man.
So we need to go get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible, and I love to see that. When artists, we're making music, we're doing this and that, but yeah, books, documentaries, whatever. Yes. It's incredible because your story does need to be told. So.
Indeed, absolutely.
I know you have. I know there was a documentary in the works. Is that still something that's happening?
Yeah. Actually, it's a couple of them. Man. The one I have been mentioning that we have been broadcasting, trailer-wise, it's called Young Bleeder Baton Rouge Story. Shouts out to my cousin Frog over there at Picture Perfect Studios. So we actually wrapping that up. Hopefully we'll be finished before the year is out. But a lot of it is done. A lot of the OGs from the town that raised me and all that's still around, they come out for me and tell my story from a kid on up. So I'm going to sum it up in the end, but that's what we doing, just catching everybody that's possibly, that's able to be You know what I mean? A part of it. So that type of thing. Yeah, we working on that still, as well as I'm doing a record. Shouts out to Lee Young, the first and only Latino artist that was part of Swisher House. So he's producing a whole album for me called Full Circle, and we doing a documentary for that as well as we speak.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. I don't know him personally, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Dope. Yeah. So, you know, and you were just talking about the Strange thing. So you did have an album on Strange, right?
Yeah, called Preserved.
Okay. And then after, there was just a one album deal, or what kind of happened with the Strange thing?
Well, it was all but kind of like the priority thing. You know, I was promised a lot of things just coming over there on Dave's strength. Had a chance to meet Trav and Tech. And we was family. I actually went on like a 2.5 month tour with those guys. And at the end of that tour, we all grew accustomed to each other. So the promises made to me that they was, see, I really signed like the Strange Lane was a subsidiary label. You know what I mean? Obviously just directly signed to Strange for artists and myself that had a past and you know, needed to be rekindled. I was in that direction, but in the same way of putting Preserved out, that record kind of deteriorated. I mean, not the record, but that part of the label.
Yeah.
So it was talks of me just initially signing with Strange after the tour, and before it was over with, you know, I get a letter or something, I don't know if a day somebody told me that me and a few other guys were no longer on the label. So the same kind of hit the face thing, you know, and I hadn't talked to Trav or Tech since then, you know, maybe do text or something and Tech talk, but that type of thing, they left me holding the bag. So I ended up in the same kind of way. And shots out here again to Dave. Dave not being the president, he could only do what he could do for me. And, you know, we still friends to this day. And, you know, no bitterness with those guys, but that's how that happened. Okay. You know, false promises, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, from when you were coming up through the game and guys were getting record deals and getting, you know, that kind of doesn't happen as much anymore. Now labels want you already established before they're going to put money behind you. So like, yes. And you know, and Strange is a great example of independent success, you know, so, and of course Master P and whatnot. So were you able to kind of now, going through your musical career, learn, you know, of course you're picking up things along the way, watching, hearing things, and, you know, so now with the new perspective on how to do it independently, do you think it's better for artists to, you know, just stay independent and not necessarily, you know, chase that deal?
Yeah, man, if you are financially stable and have some type of foundation where you can maintain yourself, that's what you want, to own all your masters and, you know, publishing and so on and so forth. But, you know, if it's a good deal, you know, I'm always open for suggestions. But to me, the record company is like a bank for artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have them overall finance and the long arm reach to place and promote yourself every city, every town, state to state. That could cost a bundle of money, man. So that part of it, and have a system that's already set up. So independently, is you know, for us, it's back to the off the trunk gang, hand-to-hand delivery. So that could take forever. You know what I mean? Depending on your multitude family and business constituents, you know what I mean? So that part is already a system set up that's called, you know, that's called industry, you know, that's already set up for you. So if you could ride your own way, finance your own thing, I recommend that, and that way you stay away from the flack and the bullshit and people changing on you, you know, right when you get ready to jump off. So, you know, me and Yuck Mom say this all the time: one hand wash the other, two hands wash your face. So if you can hold yourself down, I require independence all day.
Yeah, I love that, you know, and I think, you know, it all depends on artists as well. But this is a thing that I think artists need to realize is, you know, it doesn't have to be done all one way. Like, if you've ever had a deal, you know what I mean, then you could ride your success off that deal even if you don't have it anymore. You know, there's still ways to tour and ways to make money for yourself as an artist. And I think a lot of guys are used to everything being done for them, and so they don't know what to do when those people ain't around no more. You know,
right. They taught me that coming in the game. So always remember this. It's 90% business, 10% talent.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And I I was the type of starving artist that fought against that. Like, what do you mean? That's discredit to the artist. Then I had to understand what they mean. It costs a lot of money. A lot of people got to work on computers, posters, and what have we to brand you. The whole branding, marketing, advertising process is costly. You know, like somebody once told me, if you're not known in your own hometown, how can I promote you in Alaska?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of work. So that's the business end. So I learned to respect the business, learn this business first. Master your craft, but learn the business. So when you get there, you don't feel like you're being played around with or somebody's jerking you. You see what I'm saying? When you're independent, you know what's coming and what's going versus being in the blind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's true, you know, because there is gonna, you know, people are gonna come and go, situations are gonna come and go. But the more you know, you can self-sustain. And like I said, I had to learn that as well with people coming and going. Well, I had to learn how to do this, do that, when all I wanted to do was rap. I didn't want to do nothing else. You know what I mean? Like, but once you learn how to produce, or you could do graphics, or you do whatever you do, then yeah, you're helping yourself along, marketing and whatnot. You know, so nowadays, all you need is social media, and you can have a career, you know.
Right. Well, I say, you know, I'm still something old, something new. I still believe, you know, in boots on the ground, that type of thing. You know what I mean? Getting out in the community and knowing people. You know, it'd be hell if the lights cut off. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So they go back to bebop groups and singing on the corner and all that type of thing. So I stay old school, new school, and try to bridge that void on the in between, because it's necessary. You know, you don't want to miss nothing. People still buy vinyl records as collector's items and so on. We still have DJs. So once you understand the game and the fundamentals to the game, you want to grasp it all here again, full circle. You know, if possible. So yeah.
Oh yeah, because you're just empowering yourself even more. You know, to keep, you know, promoting your art and doing what you do for a living and loving it. You know, and so. That's important. So, you know, a lot of times when we get into the business and then we make a little bit of money, we invest in other things and whatnot, you know, like starting businesses and you know, really diversifying your funds and having multiple streams of income. Were you able to take some of that money and start up any businesses, or, you know, did you have anything else going on as far as that?
Yeah, man, that's and to this day, man, you know, what I did, even when I was with Priority, I started my first company was called Criminal Records. That never was launched and never got off the ground. I believe a few other people had that title. So as I was running with that, me and Uncle Paul, they put our head together and few pennies and started a label called Detention Home Entertainment, which is my second label. And eventually we ran that ship till the ship ran out. Then Paul had started doing something else independent, and I kept going on with my career. We still friends and family to this day, no beef, no plex. But I started my third label with Strange. Actually, it was a co-op deal that I had with those guys. But when you look at the album, it don't have a logo on it, because I'm still trying to figure what logo I'm going to use for Trapdoor Entertainment. So still to this day, so since 2009, I've been up and running with Trapdoor. I got into the book business. I have my own liquor that's called Speak Easy. We just released a hemp aid drink with the CBD infused green apple. You know what I mean? I have a drink that's on the market right now called Seaweed.
Nice.
What am I missing? You know what I mean? Plethora of things, man, that I do. You know what I mean? I'm trying not to forget anything, but mainly, you know, those for starters, man. You know what I mean? From merch and so on and so forth. You know, I'm the type of guy that'll make a business out of nothing. So having that access, like you say, once you have a good name, people looking for you to do anything. You know, you can sell socks if you know, ask Bob Lauren, you know what I mean, if you do it right and people expecting something from you. So that entitled me into about 5-10 different businesses. There's something else I'm missing that I want to say to you. But for starters, my own look, I got a weed strand coming called Corleone Chronic. You know what I mean? So different forms of businesses and different businesses, man, I'm working on as we speak.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to get into the cannabis industry right now as well.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, that's and I know with being in Louisiana, it's a little difficult for you right now because it hasn't gone legal out there. But hopefully they get on board now. You know.
Well, the funny thing about it, I was mentioning my case earlier. I had the SWAT the scat team, the feds, all, ran in my house and ramshacked it. And, but they pulled 28 yards on me, man, broad daylight for one guy.
Yeah.
And somebody picked up the phone and whatever they did, they due diligence. But the night they was taking me to the parish prison, they told me it's two dispensaries just opened up out here. So we got the CBD legal. It's coming. LSU has a weed farm as well as Southern University right next door to us. Mississippi is legal. And you would think that'll be the least place. You would think Texas before all of us. So as far as this whole South, yeah, it's a crazy thing. The only place that I know is legal out here. You would think Georgia, Miami, none of those places are legal. But Mississippi is, you know what I mean? So it's around, and like I say, they just opened a dispensary or two here. So it's on the way. So I want to grow right with that enterprise. So it's right on time for me on a good note.
Yeah, because, and that's the injustice of it all is, I have a felony for distribution of weed, so... and to see people still in prison now, and to see people getting, harassed now while other people are, capitalizing on it is just really a sore spot for me, So hopefully everybody gets on board with as far as the legalization and the legislation and whatnot. So, because it's ridiculous and it's had a bad stigma attached to it for a long time, and that just needs to be eradicated completely. You know what I mean?
This what I don't understand. If we consider ourselves the United States of America, well, we 27, 29 states legal and the rest is not. That's not united. That's divided.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I don't understand that. Weed is on your first page of the Bible. I learned that from a Cypress Hill record. Genesis 1:12 about the herb yielding seed, and God said it was good, and grass and the herb. You see what I'm saying? That's the one thing we know on the planet that hadn't killed anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know your education toward marijuana, it's medical. You know what I mean? It's nature's healing leaf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You drink too much water, you'll drown. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You take too much air, it'll take your breath away. But marijuana hasn't affected or killed nobody in the ways we was taught. And keep in mind, for the history again of marijuana, when you go back to the red tax law, was the first time they considered it illegal. It was legal at one time. I mean, we in a country that Indians and Mexicans predominated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for the great migration of Europe and everything else that invaded America. These people was blowing, the peace pipe and so on and so forth, our history. So I don't understand. My uncle left me with this before he passed away. He said, "Enough, remember this here. Man law gonna always change, but God law gonna remain the same."
Yes.
And I live to know and to believe that, you know what I mean, to this day. So until that's corrected, man, we can't talk about the outside unless we, get our own house clean. So that's a problem with our government, our system in America, and everybody with their beliefs. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I feel like it should be legal everywhere in the world, man. What's the problem? You know what I mean? I never understood that.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that, what you just said about God's law, that's just how I've always felt about it. Like, of course we respect man-made laws, of course, but and I'm glad people are kind of waking up to the fact and coming around, as far as the whole legalization, and it'll take hold state to state, and they're kind of coming back around on the hallucinogenics, with the mushrooms, and because and that's the point, is like natural. If it's natural, it's fine. If it's manufactured, it's chemicalized. That's the stuff that's the poison. So if we're pushing and promoting, all the stuff that they let you push and promote, then of course cannabis should be no issue at all. You know what I mean?
Tobacco is legal, and that that causes cancer. Alcohol is legal, you know what I mean? That causes all type of things. So why is that available, easy access to the public, versus something that's gonna help the people and unite the people? You see what I'm saying? You got lease murders and different things like that. When you got time to smoke some weed, weed make you think and sit down, and even kind of slow you down in a sense before you jump out and do something. Alcohol turn you up. You know what I mean? Even cocaine or opium was some type of medicine at one time. But like you say, once it's manufactured and you adding stuff to the natural things that grow off the ground, then you're creating Frankenstein monster, what you expect.
Exactly. So hopefully, everybody gets on board with the 50 and we can move on and be prosperous. And, because like I said, it is... And so you mentioned having a couple of, starting a couple of record labels. Is there any artists you work with now? Because I know you produce. Are you trying to, kind of bring up any artists? Are you watching out for anybody that you think has some talent and you're trying to put on,
Yeah, all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to release a compilation this month called Welcome to the Trap. I got 20 plus artists down with me, in the several states around the country, including my own. Actually, we're waiting for the single to pop up. The first single out there is my brother, Lucky Knuckles, from the original concentration camp in the Corleone family. So we got a single together called Hustling that should be available, today, once it loads into the system. So we've been waiting for that since 12 o'clock last night. But yeah, I keep a light on, man. I'm always looking for talent. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, you could be the next, bring an artist up and there you go. You know what I'm saying? You're still, and that's the thing too, like that is one thing lends to the next. You know what I mean?
Yes, indeed.
Something's always going to open a door to something else. And I know with all the talent out there and I know with all the artists you meet and, you touring around. And so I didn't know if you were like, hey, this guy might got something here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And shouts out to Baby Savage, where you concerned. We all do that. And like he mentioned and you mentioned, man, that's how I came up. Guys gave it to me, so I give back what I was given. And that's the true nature of things, pass it on. That part. And
so now that, you're at where you're at in your career, and you have all the, you got the plaques, you got, everybody knows who Young Bleed is. What would you do different now?
Absolutely nothing, because it's the makings of me. You see what I'm saying? Nice. All the rough and the hard. I'm the type of guy, when you look at the Godfather and they say, Don Corleone wants to, know the bad news immediately. See, I learned if you could deal with the rough, everything else is a walk in the park. I don't want to be partying, then some shit happens and it shades the party. So anything that's bad, let's get all that shit out the way first so we can party and have a good time in the end. Genesis to Revelation, you hear what I'm saying? So I wouldn't change it. Yes, sir.
And and what I've come to find, because I've been, and honestly, it's since I started messing with Baby Savage in 2017, and it's really opened my eyes and everything to a whole new reality, and so in learning and evolving as a person, I've gotten into affirmations and meditation and whatnot, and a big part of that is perspective, and
yes, sir.
And you're creating your reality, so if you're in that space, you're attracting all that to you. So you putting everything in perspective, and like you said, you get the hard shit out of the way, because once you got in perspective, it's not really hard, and you got to put it, and you realize that there's people, in other parts of the world or in other parts of your city that are doing a lot worse than you, and you know what I'm saying, and you kind of just have to keep everything in that line sight, that eyesight.
Yeah, good karma, man. What goes around comes around. Pimp C used to say this here: what you put out, you're gonna get back. If you dealt people dirty cars, then you're gonna get pickles, and you know what pickles look like. Yeah. But if you did it the right way, everything gonna be sweet, man. So I look for that sweetness, man. Rest in peace to Walter Payton, man. That part.
Yeah. And so, and I always ask this at the end of the interview, and because I'm just always curious as an artist. We all have our favorites. We all have our lists, and it's subjective, of course. But who would you say is your favorite artist of all time, dead or alive?
All-time favorite, man, that I saw walk a straight line. I got yet to meet the brother I'm looking for. That's on my bucket list before, we leave the planet. Rock Him My Life, man. I saw Rock in the game in 1986. I came in the door. I said it before. Never let the mic magnetize me no more. That thing. You see Rock still on.
Yeah.
7 years, past my junior, and still stand on his path. A lot of guys come out this year and they this type of artist, then they change to something else. This guy been walking the same 5% of God path. In the name of the 5%ers in hip hop as a true God. On the planet, for as man theory, we all gods. Christ mentioned that in a chapter of John in the Bible. Did I not say we all are gods?
Absolutely.
So if you know what you come from, you are what you eat. We all children of God. So people forget that in life.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The last album I put out is called There Is a God in 2019. You know what I mean? So, and that same definitely here again, like I mentioned earlier, growing into that spiritual heightenance. Certain education I got from records and vocabulary words I got from listening to a Rakim record, because he was mentioning things that I wasn't hearing in school that'll make me have to come home. My papa always taught me to get to education, learn what they teaching you in school, and then, you know, do your own research, you know what I mean, and educate yourself. My uncle, same uncle, would say, hey man, there's three type of senses really in the world. We know we have five, and some people with a sixth sense, but that's common sense, book sense, and street sense.
Yeah.
So in that same science and genre, when you walk in that path, he one of the few that I saw ain't go astray, man. You know, so shouts out to Rakim Allah, always the greatest.
So does anybody ever try to put y'all in the same room or on the phone or anything?
Yes, my big cousin Chairman Fred, you know, I'm a baby Cub Panther, you know, for us, the Black Panther Cubs in the Chicago version. So Chairman Fred, when they was doing the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, he tried effortless to get me on that soundtrack. And there was a time I was in Chicago, and it was Rakim was out there at the same time, but they got extremely busy, and he couldn't bring us together. So I've been reaching that ride before, since, and to this day, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that would be incredible, because I know he just had that project recently where he had, I think it was more of like a compilation. He had other artists on it, you know, he wasn't as featured, and so that'd have been dope if they could have thrown Bleed on there too, you know.
Oh yeah, man. Shouts out to the Dog Pound. I know Snoop Dogg, Corrupt, and